Right, good day, dear viewers and subscribers from all over the world. This is The Truth with Ben Jokes, your number one political talk show. Another wicked policy has been implemented. Look at it. TINUBU bans importation of foreign goods to strengthen domestic economy. Now, the banning of importation is not new. Buhari already banned the importation of many goods. What TINUBU actually did here, according to the Minister of Information, is this. This policy means Nigeria comes first in all procurement. No foreign goods or devices that are already being produced locally will be procured without clear and justified reason. It is that clear and justified reason that will finish Nigerians. This policy will affect rice, spaghetti, vegetable oil, and all those things that we have here that are not adequate and are being complemented by importation. It is clearly a veiled policy to increase import duties and tariffs, because that is what they are going to do. The clear and justified reason they will give us is that government is generating heavy money from increased import and custom duties. Meanwhile, it is the people that will bear the burden of all that increase, because once they do so, inflation will skyrocket. You see, every day this regime brings up new ways to make life harder for Nigerians. The explanation they will give you now is that they are doing this to encourage local production, but banning of importation or increase of import duties and custom tariffs is one of the last steps you take when trying to encourage local production. The first steps include stabilizing your power sector. 2, ensure that energy like power and diesel are affordable. Deal with insecurity decisively. Reduce interest rates so that entrepreneurs can take loans. You have not done any of these, and you are going straight into banning importation. What a disaster. No wonder the World Bank has predicted that poverty will get worse towards 2027. And few hours ago, another international body dropped a very terrible report on Tinubu's failure. First, it was World Bank, then IMF. Now, UNICEF has disgraced Tinubu before the whole world. UNICEF just reported that Nigeria ranks worst globally in one of the world's most disgraceful parameters for measuring a people's well-being. They said we are even worse than countries that are at war. And this update from UNICEF sent fear into Aso Rock, because it is becoming increasingly obvious that these bodies are against Tinubu. Before I show you details of these top stories and how Nigerians reacted, let me quickly show you these videos. AKPABIO is under fire as talks of him stepping aside from the Senate has started gaining traction after the professor who rigged the election for him was jailed. Let's listen to Awal Rafsanjani.
This is the thing that we are saying. We are saying that in the first place, if you have been involved in this process, even though he denied that he did not, state manage that, but now that we have gotten legal, or judicial conviction in that, case, it means that, he has a case. And for him to preserve the sanctity, the dignity of even that, position as Senate President, he is like number 3 in the country. And if your election is having this serious integrity deficit, then definitely you need to make that sacrifice to show example that you are not desperate and you are not out there at all costs to stay in that position, unless it is a personal interest. If it is for the public interest, there's no argument, there's no worry. You can simply step aside and even apologize to the nation, because there's no way the probe will go to jail and then you are sitting, enjoying. Like I said, irrespective of which election it is, it could be, even immediately the first election that he has even contested. But the fact that crime has been committed and you cannot rob or, clean that, crime that has been committed. In other countries, if you are found guilty, even after 50 years, you will still go to, face the music. In our country, because of the political control and manipulation and lack of respect for the rule of law and lack of the fact that we don't have, political integrity in the system, people think that they can do. Impunity is all over, and they can even rig the election and say, let's meet in court. And that is why it's a very dangerous, and that's why, again, you see many unprincipled politicians are jumping from one place to another because they fear that they may actually win at the popular vote, and the people who wanted to take over that mandate, they will just meet in the court because already they may have planted all sorts of judges at the appeal court, at the various courts, that when they go there, they will just simply collect that mandate. That is the reason why you even see this madness of defection. Not because they believe in President Ahmed Bola Tinubu or they believe in APC. It is because of the protection. They want to make sure that they continue to enjoy the power and the resources of Nigerian people.
You saw that. The professor who rigged the election has been jailed. What is AKPABIO still doing in office? The man they rigged the election for. This is what you get only in a failed state. Now, if the organs that should act have been taken over by the APC, how about the opposition? Does it mean that we have no opposition left in this Nigeria? Must it be Peter Obi that will talk about everything? Anything that Peter Obi does not say remains unsaid. What is going on in Nigeria? I think the professor should also refuse to go to jail. Yes, he has the right to do that. He should just relocate from Akwa Ibom State, maybe to Lagos or Abuja, and continue his life. Because this is a zoo. And you can imagine what other corrupt judges will be telling these judges that delivered the right judgment now. Because the judges have put themselves at serious risk. This man AKPABIO now can start looking for ways to eliminate them. Because now they have passed the right judgment. They have done justice. Other organs of government that should act have refused to act. So you have put the judges at great risk. So sometimes these judges that fail to do the right thing might be doing so because they fear that their judgment may not be implemented. And at the end of the day, they will be on their own. What a failed state. The next video here is from Frank Tietie talking about the arrest of the very dark man. See the video.
If the EFCC is able to determine what is fake news, one would expect too that it will tell us the proper news, the proper situation of things. I think I like the slogan of the EFCC where before now when it says the EFCC will get you anytime, anywhere, right? So that's connotes a very powerful organization that's ubiquitous. In that case, and then an individual, that kind of powerful organization against an individual, the organization should show some restraint and should show some measure of application of standards. That's a very dangerous situation where you find young people going to the bank, the premises of the bank, going to protest because they're dealing with a very influential personality called Very Dark Man. That is well loved. In fact, his followership is phenomenal. Now, and that's the reason why EFCC as an organization that also requires the goodwill of the public in its fight against corruption and financial crimes should actually deal carefully with an individual like Very Dark Man. Now, there's a problem. He has been arrested, and then there seemed to be a form of strong, cooperation that was offered by the Guarantee Trust Bank. The expectation is a show of accountability on the part of the EFCC and the bank by simply explaining to Nigerians that this is exactly what's happening. Nobody is saying that the Very Dark Man is above the law. However, when it seems...
But the bank in question says, they don't have a hand in it. The young man, the VDM, was arrested outside the premises of the bank. That they've exculpated themselves, more or less.
Oh, but Nigerians don't believe. And that's more reason why an authority like the EFCC should be the forefront of showing a level of accountability to the people by saying this and such a reason is why we arrested Very Dark Man. And of course, because of the presumption of innocence, he should be assumed that he has been granted bail.
You saw that. The EFCC just arrested the man without telling the public the reason for his arrest. And even when his lawyers visited, they still couldn't place a hold on any good reason the EFCC was giving, to the point that Showoredown said that it was when they kept him in detention that they began cooking up an allegation to place on him. A lot of people have said he was cyber stalking the gospel artist Mercy Chinwo, and reports came from several other people, but I am telling you that the main thing happening here is suppression of this young man's voice, because recently he became vocal against TINUBU and the APC. So their mission is to silence everybody so that they can continue destroying the country in peace. This country is doomed under the APC, and it is never going to get any better. And just as Nigerians were yet reacting to this video by Frank Tietie, that terrible update from UNICEF began making the rounds. Nigeria beats war-ridden Sudan to become the worst country in terms of malnourishment of children in Africa. What a shame. Look at how the papers reported it. UNICEF: Nigeria beats war-ridden Sudan to emerge capital of malnourished children in Africa. The United Nations Children's Fund on Monday said Nigeria has beaten the war-torn Sudan to emerge as the capital of malnourished children on the African continent and the second highest in the world. The UNICEF Chief Nutrition Section, Nemat Hajiboy, who disclosed this during a media briefing on the 2025 lean season multi-sectoral response organized by the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, said 600,000 children in the country suffer from acute malnutrition. Nigeria has the highest number of malnourished children in Africa and the second in the world, Ms. Hajiboy said. She noted that half of these children are on the brink of developing severe acute malnutrition, making them vulnerable to death. We are talking about 600,000 children now. Sherigan Lone, a World Food Program official, also mentioned that Nigeria had the most food insecure people in Africa. This damning revelation came amid OCHA's appeal for funding to tackle the recurrent food and nutrition crisis in the northeast states. Trond Jensen, OCHA head office, said the UN agency required a combined $300 million to adequately address the crisis, noting that $160 million of the fund is necessary to tackle crises related to food insecurity, nutrition, water, and sanitation. Last year, the Global Hunger Index listed Sudan as the country most hit by poverty, followed by Burundi, Somalia, and Yemen. Meanwhile, the World Bank's Africa's Pulse report of April 2025 showed that Nigeria accounts for 19% of extremely poor people in sub-Saharan Africa, while the Democratic Republic of Congo has 14%, Ethiopia 9%, and Sudan 6%. So we have overtaken Sudan and all those other countries that were ahead of us just a year ago. World Bank also predicted a grim future for Nigeria, stating that more Nigerians will be plunged into poverty by 2027. You heard that? What a shame. So many shameful revelations made in that update. Now, the very first thing to take from this report is that of all the leaders in the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, TINUBU is the worst performing. In fact, he is the worst by a country mile. Just last year, Sudan, Burundi, Somalia, and Yemen were said to be the countries most hit by poverty. And by April this year, Nigeria has overtaken them. Now, we constitute 19% of the number of poor people in Africa. And UNICEF, United Nations, and World Bank are budgeting $300 million. They said $160 million of that money will be used to tend to problems of food insecurity, water problems, nutrition, and sanitation in Nigeria. This is a country that has its own leaders, a country that has its own resources. So what are we doing with our own monies if United Nations and World Bank and UNICEF are the ones that still have to come and fix food insecurity for us, fix nutrition problems for us, fix water and sanitation problem for us? Yet these so-called leaders are collecting loans every AK market day. And somebody is telling me that this is all right? Even if you are a novice and you know nothing about leadership or the economy, is it not clear that this does not make sense? Where you are a man, you have your wife and children, you are working and earning salary, and it is your neighbor that is taking care of your children. So what are you doing with your own money? That is what is simply happening here. And these people expect Nigerians to keep quiet. When Nigerians talk, they come for them. And I am just looking at ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. TINUBU is your chairman. Look at the kind of reports that are coming out of Nigeria. You made somebody your chairman who depends on United Nations and UNICEF and World Bank to feed its population, to give its population water, to give them nutrition. How can such a person be your chairman? That is why Burkina Faso, Mali, and the rest are pulling out of ECOWAS, because the organization has lost its relevance and everything it stands for. How can your chairman be performing so woefully like this? Then how are the rest of you going to perform? And Agbalaka here says, is UNICEF working for Peter Obi? There is a hidden agenda going on. Please, who is the lead and where is he from? Because that is what Bayo Onanuga will come and say, that Obi is demarketing Nigeria. Now, will you say that UNICEF and these other organizations are demarketing Nigeria? And Churchill here says, how poor you have to be to have more malnourished children than a war-torn country. War-torn countries are doing better than Nigeria. Think about that. It means what is happening to Nigeria is worse than a war. And Queen B here says, this fraud is breaking all the negative records. That is it. This man has broken all the evil records there is. What a shame. And Jay here says, Bayo Onanuga, Daniel Bwala, Reno Mokri, Bashir Ahmed, TVC News. You think you can keep pushing propaganda? The whole world already knows the truth about Nigeria. Don't advise that man to redeem his government. Keep defending what you know are lies. Unanyash go soon open. Whether you advise them or not, there's nothing they can do, because this is the APC. They can never do better. They have come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that is why I keep telling Nigerians that for us to have a country at all in the near future, we must come together, cast our sentiments aside, and get rid of the APC. But until then, make I still enter town, make I go get some ogbonge political news where una go like. Why? Because now, because of una. Now I day here, so don't go away. Don't go